I'm so excited about this next dessert table. My niece is turning 9, she loves mermaids, I love mermaids, so I'm going to be setting up a mermaid dessert table. My name is Gema, and on my channel I bake and craft everything that goes on my dessert tables. If you would like to learn how you can create dessert tables for your family, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification so you get notified every single time I post another video. In this video I'm going to be sharing the process of how I create my mermaid dessert table. So let's start planning. I DIY this concept board, which is really fun to make, to help me explain how I create my dessert tables. Now, dessert tables can seem a little bit overwhelming, but with proper planning, it is possible to make something really special for your family. The first thing that you notice on this concept board is the color scheme. One of the things that professional stylists and designers do very well is their color scheme, and it is an important aspect of my dessert table. I want to make sure that everything on my dessert table, from the backdrop, balloons, desserts, tablecloth, is within my color scheme, and that's what's going to make my dessert table look really professional. But we're not going to go into details of the color scheme yet. The first thing on the checklist is the details of the party. I want to know where I'm going to be setting up the party. Is it going to be inside? Is it going to be outside? How much space do I have? Is there good lighting in that room? What color is the wall behind the dessert table? All of these details are going to help me decide how much time I need to work on my backdrop. Because I do everything on my table and it is a lot of work, although I love to do it, I have to decide where I'm going to focus most of my time. Although the backdrop and the styling of the table is just as important, I am initially a baker, so I like to focus most of my time on my desserts. But because my desserts take a lot of time to make, at the end of the day, I do really want a pretty setup. Luckily, this party is going to be outside, so I'm going to get lots of natural sunlight, and the backdrop is a really nice garden. So I know I don't have to work too much on my backdrop. I'm just going to use my curtain stand. I'm going to use white curtains and balloons. Balloons are a really effective and affordable way to make a backdrop if you do it yourself. The next detail I need to know is who this dessert table is going to be catered to. This is a kids party, so the dessert menu is going to be catered to kids. And I also want to know how many guests there will be, how many kids there will be, how many boys and girls there will be. I'm not talking about teenagers. Teenagers are going to get what they get. The nice thing about being able to do dessert tables for my family is I get to decide on everything. What I make, how much I make. But this is a kids party. I really want to make sure that I know how many boys and how many girls there are in case I want to make specific girl cookies and specific boy cookies. One of the things that I like to do is I like to make really nice detailed desserts for the kids, and then the rest of the guests will just have a little bit more of a simple design. And this is a great way to keep your costs down. If you go to the bakery, you can definitely ask them, can you make me 4 really pretty shared cookies, and then the rest not so pretty. And same thing for the cupcakes, and if there's a difference in price, that could definitely keep your costs down. For this party, there's going to be 3 girls and 1 boy under the age of 9. So I'm going to be making 4 mermaid cookies. The prettiest cookies I'm making are the mermaid cookies. So I want to make sure I'm going to make 4 in case one of them breaks, because I want to make sure that all those 4 young kids are really happy with their cookies. For the boy, I'm going to make a really nicely detailed fish, and then the rest of the guests are going to get a really pretty but simple seashell cookie. If you're going to have a big party, you don't have to have, one dessert per person. But if it's going to be a kids party and there's a specific dessert that kids really love, like sugar cookies or cake pops, you want to make sure that every single child gets one of those desserts. So that's a really important thing for me, because you want your guests to be really happy. You also want to take into consideration if any of your family members or guests have any allergies. The next thing on my checklist is my table, and of course you'll need a tablecloth. Personally, I do like to use my own table. I don't want to have to rely on my family to have a clean table ready for me. I like knowing that I have a clean table that I only use for my dessert tables, that's ready to go on the day that I'm going to be setting up my dessert table. I like to, have a table that I know how much glassware is going to fit in it, how my tablecloth is going to hang, because I don't like short tablecloths. And having my own table allows me to style the table in advance. So it is a lot easier for me to create my dessert tables when I use my own table. For my tablecloth, I like to invest in tablecloths that I know I can use time and time again on different themes. So I do like to stick to white, black, and creams and ivories and beiges. But once in a while, I do buy colored tablecloths, and this one does go really well with my theme. But I'm thinking that because my glassware is in these colors, my desserts are going to be in these colors, it might be a little bit too much turquoise. So in that case, I might end up using this really pretty creamy tablecloth that I bought, and this one I got at Winners for $20, so it wasn't that expensive, and it has a nice little glitter to it. And because most of my glassware is going to be white, it's going to be able to stand out more on a creamier tablecloth. The next thing on our checklist is glassware. And I like to buy my glassware in clear and white because that goes with everything, but once in a while I do buy colored glassware. Specifically for this dessert table, I happen to have quite a bit of colored glassware. This is mine and my daughter's favorite colors, so I do gravitate towards those colors. So if I see, colored glassware in this color at a store, I'm not able to resist. So I do have quite a bit just for this dessert table, but normally I do stick to clear and white glassware. And I do like to stick to, smaller size glassware, just because the more glassware you have on the dessert table means more different types of desserts, and that's what's going to make it a big hit with your family. So that's pretty much all you need for your dessert table. You need 5 things. You need your simple backdrop, your table, your tablecloth, your glassware, and your desserts. Anything else after that is just extra. If you find decorations that go with your theme, then that's just going to make it even more special. If you're really interested in creating a dessert table and you don't know where to start, a great way to start is creating a dessert table with just one dessert. A great idea is a waffle bar. You can add, you can put your waffle machine right in the center, pre-make your batter and put in a nice pitcher so that they can make it nice and fresh. And on your table with nice glassware, you can set up fruits, whipping creams, syrup, honey, all of the things that people like to put on their waffles. And on one side you can put a coffee bar, on the other side you can put a hot chocolate bar. If you're having kids, you can even have candy if you're gonna have lots of kids at your party. And I think that you guys would just love a waffle bar. So that's a really great way to start. If you had to create a dessert table with just one dessert, what would it be? Please leave your answer in the comment section below, and I promise I'm going to answer every comment with a tip or a trick that goes with your choice of dessert. So the last thing I'm going to talk about on the concept board is the menu. Now I am going to be making a cake. I don't always make a cake for my dessert table. I've done a lot of super cute dessert tables and there was absolutely no cake. But I haven't done a cake in a long time, and I've been wanting to make this mermaid dessert table for a long time. So I do want to make the effort to make a nice cake. And of course, I am going to be doing sherry cookies. Sherry cookies are the #1 thing that I like to put on my dessert tables. The cake and the cookies are the 2 desserts that are going to emphasize my theme very well. So I always want to focus most of my decorating time making my cake and my cookies. And I am going to be making a video on how I decorate my cookies, so watch out for that video next week. Now I am going to be making cream puffs and macaroons because the birthday girl requested it, and cream puffs always are a big hit on my family dessert tables, and the macaroons as well. So I am going to be making cake pops and cupcakes in the mermaid style. I don't always do this many styled desserts, but this is a very small party. There's not going to be that many stylized desserts, and I'm going to be using the same batter for my cake. I'm going to be using it for my cake pops and my cupcakes to make it a lot easier. And I did do mermaid cake pops and mermaid cupcakes in the past, and they turned out so cute, so I really want to make the effort to make them again. An important point that I wanted to mention in terms of the ratio of desserts to guests is that making a dessert table for your family is very, very different from doing a dessert table for clients. You're always going to have a lot more desserts per person for a family party than you would for, let's say, a wedding. Right now it's a little bit different for me because with COVID-19 we're having smaller parties, so I'm going to end up having more desserts than guests. As an example, one small batch of vanilla cupcake batter makes 18 cupcakes, and this party is 12 guests. So I'm going to have more cupcakes than guests. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more different now for me, but that just means that I'm going to be doing a lot of work on a dessert table for a smaller party, but that's okay for me because I love making dessert tables for my family regardless of how small the party is. I just wanted to mention that. Don't stress too much about your dessert menu, whether it's store-bought or homemade. Just make sure that they're not overly sweet, and your guests will really appreciate that. An easy thing to add to your desserts is candies, and of course try to keep, try to choose candies that are not overly sweet. I know that kids really like chocolate dipped pretzels, and also marshmallows. I mean, who doesn't love marshmallows? So you can use pretty glassware like this apothecary jar, so you can put your candies in here, or gumballs, whatever you decide, and then buy a ribbon in the color scheme of your dessert table, and it'll just look so lovely. The last thing I'm going to talk about is the color scheme, and like I said at the beginning, it is an important aspect of my dessert table. Now, I debated whether to use, the aqua green and the turquoise, and I have, glassware in both colors, so I decided I'm going to go with both. And my niece wanted pink. She wanted the shells, the mermaid shells, to be pink, and because I want the pink to pop out, I'm only going to have the majority of my dessert table is going to be in these colors, and then I'm going to have pops of pink everywhere. So the mermaid shells are going to be pink, a few of the balloons are going to be pink, and then the cake and the desserts are going to have a little bit of pink in it. So now I'm going to set up my glassware so you have a better idea of my dessert table setup. So this is how I'm going to be setting up my glassware for my dessert table. And now we're going to talk about the important aspects of a beautiful dessert table. One of the aspects is your color schemes. You want to make sure that everything on your table, including your glassware, is within the color scheme. The second thing is your glassware. You want to buy glassware that are different heights. As you can see, these two pieces are from the same collection, but they are different heights. So this is going to add a really big difference to the overall look of your dessert table. The third important aspect is it is easier to design a dessert table when both sides are symmetrical, so both sides are a mirror reflection of each other. That means that you have to buy all of your glassware in sets of 2. Of course, the center part is going to be the focal point, so that's where you're going to put all of your prettier pieces, and that's where I usually keep my cake and my sugar cookies. When I create my desserts, I don't make all of my desserts super fancy. For instance, I might make half of the desserts a little bit more detailed and the other half a little bit more simple. So I do like to use a few little pieces. So I do like to use a few different, glassware. For instance, this small, cute little cake stand, I like to put the really, really fancy cupcakes in there. And for instance, if you've seen my Instagram, you can check out my Instagram, Gema's Dessert Tables. If you've seen my Instagram, you'll know that I use these little art easels quite a bit. But these ones are quite expensive. They're $5 each at Michael's. And then I do like having them because this is where I put all of my fancy sugar cookies, and I put them right in the center of a plate, and then I put the simpler cookies on the side, just laying flat. So it is a great way to accentuate the really nice pieces that you make or you order. And I did end up finding these from Walmart. I've been looking for these forever, and I ended up finding them at Walmart for $1.50. So these are so affordable. So I'm really glad that I found these, because these are going to be great for the rustic, my rustic dessert tables. If you enjoyed watching how I plan my dessert tables and you found it helpful, give my video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the bell notification so you get notified every single time I post another video. The first dessert that I like to make on my dessert table are my sugar cookies, and I am going to make a video on how I decorate my mermaid sugar cookies, so don't miss that next week. In the meantime, don't miss out on my sugar cookie recipe video. Until next time guys, happy baking and crafting. Bye!